stop scrolling. Because what I'm about to show you is going to make you genuinely angry at your own government. There is a city in Southeast Asia, a city the Western media barely covers, a city that gets mentioned mostly in travel blogs about street food and cheap flights, that just quietly built infrastructure so advanced, so efficient, and so affordable that engineers from London, Los Angeles, and Berlin are flying in just to walk around and take notes. Not Tokyo, not Singapore, not Seoul, Kuala Lumpur, a city that, as recently as 2010, was being described in Western urban planning journals as a cautionary tale of car-dependent sprawl and unmanaged growth. A city whose traffic was legendary for being brutal. A city that, on paper, should have had no business competing with the great infrastructure powers of the world. And yet, here we are. Because what happened in KL over the last 15 years is one of the most extraordinary infrastructure stories of the 21st century, and almost no one in the West is telling it. By the time this video ends, you will understand exactly how they did it. You'll see the tunnels, the stations, the hidden systems working silently beneath the city's surface. You'll meet the people whose lives were transformed. You'll hear the numbers that should embarrass Western governments into silence. And you will ask yourself one question. If KL can do this, why can't we? But wait. Before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my essential stuff. Comment I subscribe below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. With that said, let's get started. To understand what makes KL's infrastructure story so remarkable, you have to first understand where it started. In the early 2000s, Kuala Lumpur was a city choking on its own success. Malaysia's economy was booming. The middle class was growing fast. And everyone, absolutely everyone, was buying a car. The federal highway, the city's main artery, wasn't a road anymore. It was a parking lot with a speed limit. Average commute times in Greater KL were clocking in at 90 minutes to 2 hours each way. Air pollution was rising. Property values in the city center were disconnected from quality of life because quality of life, frankly, wasn't great if you had to commute. Sound familiar? Because that is also the story of Los Angeles in the 1990s, of London in the 1970s, of every major city that grew faster than its infrastructure and then spent decades paying the price. The difference is what happened next. Los Angeles built more highways, and the traffic got worse. London patched its Victorian subway system with increasingly expensive band-aids. KL made a different choice. They decided to build the city they wanted, not just fix the city they had. Let me give you a number that should be deeply, personally embarrassing for Western governments. 57.7 kilometers. 37 stations. Completed on time. Under budget. That is the Putrajaya line, the newest corridor of Kuala Lumpur's mass rapid transit system, completed in 2023. It stretches from Kuala Damansara in the northwest all the way to Putrajaya, the federal administrative capital, in the south. It carries tens of thousands of passengers daily. It runs every 3 to 4 minutes during peak hours. The stations are air-conditioned, spotless, digitally connected, and built to a standard that most Western commuters would find genuinely shocking. And it cost roughly $9 billion total. Now let me give you the comparison that keeps urban planners up at night. London's Elizabeth Line, Crossrail. One of the most ambitious transit projects in British history. Planned for 2018, opened in 2022. £4 billion over budget. 3.5 years late. And when it finally opened, Londoners celebrated in the streets like it was VE Day, because the bar for infrastructure delivery in the UK has fallen so catastrophically low that simply finishing a train line has become a national achievement. Los Angeles's Purple Line extension has been under active construction since 2014. The full route to westward, a distance of roughly 14 kilometers, won't be complete until at least 2027. And that's the optimistic projection. California's high-speed rail. Groundbroken in 2015. Original projected cost, $33 billion. Current projected cost, $128 billion. Current projected completion date for even a partial route, somewhere around 2033. And it's not running a single revenue train. Meanwhile, KL conceived the entire Klang Valley MRT network in 2010. 3 lines, 150 stations when complete, serving the entire metropolitan area of 7 million people. The first line opened in 2016, the second in 2022, the third in 2023. Built, running, carrying passengers, on time. Meet Faisal. He's 34 years old, lives in Petaling Jaya, works as a software engineer at a tech firm near KL Central. 2 years ago, his daily commute was 2.5 hours each way on the federal highway. Not because he lived far away, the distance is barely 18 kilometers, but because KL traffic is, or was, exactly that punishing. He tells me this almost casually now, like recounting something from a past life. You just accepted it, he says. Everyone did. You'd leave at 6 a.m. to beat the traffic, get home at 8 p.m. That was just life. Then the MRT Putrajaya line opened, with a station 400 meters from his apartment building. Today, Faisal's commute is 28 minutes. Door to door. He has saved roughly Rm 800 a month. That's about $170 on fuel, parking, toll charges, and car maintenance. He's sleeping more. He's exercising in the evenings because he actually has evenings now. And he bought a second property specifically, deliberately, because it sits within walking distance of an MRT station. The train made me wealthy, he laughs. Not crypto, not stocks, the train. But here's the thing, the trains are just the part you can see. Wait until you see what they built underneath the city itself. Kuala Lumpur has a problem that doesn't get enough attention. It sits near the confluence of 2 rivers, the Klang and the Gombak, in a tropical climate that delivers some of the most intense rainfall events on Earth. During monsoon season, KL can receive in a single afternoon what London receives over 6 weeks. The rivers swell, the drains overflow, and historically, when the water had nowhere to go, it went into the streets. Floods weren't just an inconvenience in old KL. They were an economic disaster. Road closures, business interruptions, structural damage, displaced residents. Every major flood event cost the city hundreds of millions of ringgit in losses. And the city's solution, when it came, was so audacious, so genuinely creative, that I want you to really let it land. They didn't just build a bigger drain. They built a tunnel that is both a road and a drain at the same time. The Stormwater Management and Road Tunnel, SMART, is 9.7 kilometers long, running beneath the city center. On a normal day, it operates as a 2-lane bypass road for motor vehicles, cutting through the heart of KL underground and relieving surface traffic. But when the rain gauges hit critical thresholds and the rivers start rising, the city executes what engineers call a Mode 3 operation. Variable message signs light up across the tunnel. Motorists are given a 30-minute window to exit. Barriers come down, and then the entire tunnel transitions from a road into a stormwater diversion channel, carrying millions of cubic meters of floodwater safely around the city center and into the holding reservoir downstream. One piece of infrastructure, 2 completely different functions. Operational since 2007, a 2021 study published in the Journal of Flood Risk Management cited the SMART Tunnel as one of the most cost-effective gel-purpose urban infrastructure interventions ever documented, finding it reduced peak flood discharge through the central city corridor by 46%. Now let me show you the mirror image of this. Hurricane Sandy, 2012. New York City, $60 billion in damage in 72 hours. Subway stations transformed into rivers. Electrical infrastructure destroyed. The system took years to fully recover. Then in 2021, a single tropical remnant, not even a full hurricane, just the rain from one, flooded multiple New York subway stations simultaneously. Videos went viral of passengers standing waist-deep in black water inside the turnstile corridors. The MTA called it unprecedented. Engineers called it Houston. Flooded in 2001. Flooded again in 2015. Flooded catastrophically in 2017 during Hurricane Harvey. $125 billion in damage, the most costly natural disaster in Texas history. And then flooded again, and again, Entire ZIP codes have been federally declared too dangerous to rebuild, and because the city's water management infrastructure simply cannot cope. And KL built a highway inside a storm drain. In 2007, still working perfectly. The total cost of the smart tunnel was approximately $500 million. Compare that to the $60 billion in damage from a single Sandy level event in New York. The math doesn't just speak for itself. It shouts. But here's what really stunned the urban planning community. It wasn't just what KL built. It was how fast they built it. I need to take a moment here and acknowledge something. When Western commentators hear about infrastructure success stories from Asia, there's a reflex response. A mental dismissal that sounds something like, well, they can build fast because they are authoritarian, or because they don't have environmental regulations, or because they don't have to go through democratic processes. It's a comfortable thought, and it's mostly wrong. Malaysia is a parliamentary democracy. It has environmental impact assessment requirements. It has procurement processes and public consultations. It is, in many meaningful ways, operating under comparable governance constraints to Western democracies. The difference is not the system. The difference is the will to use it. When Malaysia decided the Klang Valley needed a world-class MRT network, they didn't spend 20 years in feasibility studies and political debates. They studied what worked in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and London. They hired world-class engineering firms. They set timelines, allocated funding, and held contractors to account. The result? A project conceived in 2010 had its first line running passengers by 2016. Meet Priya. She's 58 years old. Retired teacher. Lives in Cheras, a dense, vibrant residential district on KL's southeastern edge. Priya remembers Cheras in the 1990s as a place that felt cut off. Getting into the city center for work meant an hour and 40 minutes, on a bus that stopped everywhere, in traffic that moved like coal tar. My children grew up in traffic, she tells me. School runs, tuition, everything was calculated around the jam. You didn't have a schedule. You had traffic. Her grandchildren go to school by MRT. The same journey, Cheras to the city center, is 19 minutes. One grandmother's lifetime. 1 hour and 40 minutes, down to 19 minutes. Not because the city got physically smaller, because someone made the decision to build the infrastructure to connect it properly. Standing on a Putrajaya MRT platform dismantles everything you might have imagined about transit in a so-called developing city. The platform is wide, genuinely wide, not the shoulder-squeezing narrowness of the central line at rush hour. The air conditioning is aggressive and mercifully effective in 33-degree heat. Every surface is clean in the way that suggests systems of maintenance, not just occasional cleaning. Digital displays show real-time train positions, and the train arrives before you've had time to check your phone. Now, that number I promised you, the one that has to do with what KL actually charges you to ride the system. A single Zone 1 to Zone 2 journey on the London Underground costs up to £6.70. That is $8.40 US. For trains running through tunnels that were dug in the 1890s, through infrastructure so old that, in summer, the UK government issues literal heat danger warnings for passengers using the deep lines, because the Victorian tunnels have no space to retrofit modern air conditioning. For a network that, in 2023 alone, saw over 100,000 lost customer hours due to signal failures and unplanned service disruptions. A single MRT journey in Kuala Lumpur costs between RM 1.20 and RM 5.20. That is 25 cents to $1.10 USD. For fully air-conditioned trains. On a network designed in the smartphone era, with contactless payments, app-based journey planning, real-time GPS tracking, and stations built with accessibility as a core design requirement, not an afterthought, grudgingly retrofitted 30 years after, 8 times cheaper. Infinitely newer, and by almost every measurable metric of daily reliability, better. Meet David. He's 41. Moved from Bristol, England to Kuala Lumpur 4 years ago for a position at a technology company. In Bristol, his monthly transport costs ran to about £180. In KL, His monthly transport budget between the MRT, the LRT, and occasional grab rides is RM 120, $25 US. The first time I sent a photo of a KL MRT station to my mates in Bristol, he tells me, they genuinely thought I was in Japan. I had to send them a photo of the street outside with the Malay signage to convince them. He pauses. They still didn't fully believe me. The McKinsey Global Institute's research on urban transit value, measuring service quality received per dollar spent, has consistently placed KL in the global top 10. In multiple comparative analyses, KL's score outperformed every North American city and most major European ones. You are getting more for dramatically less in a city whose GDP per capita is a fraction of London's or New York's. Explain that. Seriously, try to explain that. Using the logic that says wealthy Western cities inevitably produce better public services. You can't. But here's the moment where I have to be honest with you about something. Because this story has a crack in it. A real one. And pretending it doesn't exist would be doing you a disservice. Step off the MRT at almost any KL station. The train is immaculate. The station is spotless. The signage is clear, multilingual, thoughtfully designed. Push through the exit doors. Step outside. And then, sometimes, not always, but enough to matter, the city forgets you. The last mile problem in KL is real. It is significant. And it is the most honest criticism that can be leveled at an otherwise extraordinary transit achievement. Sidewalks vanish mid-block in ways that seem almost intentional in their randomness. A beautifully paved walkway will end abruptly at a construction hoarding, forcing pedestrians onto a road shared with motorcycles moving at 60 kilometers per hour. Shade, which is not a luxury in a city where the heat index regularly exceeds 40 degrees Celsius, is almost non-existent along many pedestrian routes. Walking from a station to an office building can involve crossing 6-lane roads at intersections with no crossing signals, navigating broken pavement, and at worst, walking along the shoulder of what is functionally a highway. A 2023 study by the World Resources Institute Malaysia found that 61% of KL rail users still depend on a private vehicle or motorcycle for at least part of their journey to and from a station. 61%. In a city with a world-class rail network, the majority of its users cannot complete their journey without a car. That is the gap. That is the unfinished sentence at the end of an otherwise remarkable paragraph. The system built the spine of a 21st century city. The nervous system, the connective tissue, the pedestrian experience, was left for later. KL's planners know this. And to their credit, they are moving. The government's 2040 Urban Mobility Plan explicitly commits to 70% non-motorized modal share. Covered walkway networks are under active development across multiple districts. E-scooter sharing hubs have been deployed at major stations. Feeder bus frequency is being synchronized with MRT scheduling so that transfers feel seamless rather than punishing. It is a problem in the process of being fixed. But here is the line that should land differently in your ears. Depending on where you live, KL identified its last mile problem, acknowledged it publicly, funded a solution, and began executing within a planning horizon of less than a decade. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, they are still debating whether to paint the bike lane green or white. The difference between cities that improve and cities that don't is rarely resources. It is almost always will. I want to tell you about a park, because it's going to permanently change how you look at beautiful public spaces in cities. KLCC Park sits at the foot of the Petronas Twin Towers, arguably the most recognizable skyline in Southeast Asia. 50 acres of manicured lawn, sculpted gardens, jogging paths, fountains, and a lake. On any given evening, you'll find families having picnics, fitness groups doing circuit training, tourists photographing the towers, children feeding fish. Over 1 million people visit annually. Nobody who walks through it has any idea what is directly beneath their feet. Meet Lim Wei Chen. He's 67 now, recently retired after 4 decades as a civil engineer in Malaysia. He worked on the infrastructure surrounding KLCC during the construction period of the late 1990s. I asked him what the park was like to build. He looked at me for a moment with an expression that was part amusement, part old professional pride. Everyone thought we were building a garden, he said. The public, the press, even some of the politicians. They saw the landscape design and thought, oh, beautiful park for the towers. He paused. We were building a flood control system. The garden was the disguise. Hidden beneath those 50 acres of grass and walking paths, completely invisible, not a single surface feature to hint at its existence, is a stormwater retention basin capable of holding 14,000 cubic meters of water. That is 5.5 Olympic swimming pools. Sitting underneath the park, in the dead center of a capital city, working silently, every monsoon season, to absorb the surge that would otherwise turn the streets of the Golden Triangle into channels. For free, passively, without maintenance teams scrambling, without pumps failing, without emergency operations centers activating. Just physics and engineering, doing exactly what they were designed to do, beneath a million pairs of feet that never know it's they. This is not accidental. It reflects a broader design philosophy in KL's planning, building the functional and the beautiful together, so that the systems keeping the city alive are woven into the spaces where citizens actually live. The Petronas Towers themselves were built under a 45-degree setback mandate, a zoning requirement that forced the development to maintain open ground-level space proportional to its height. This created the conditions for the park, which created the conditions for the basin, which created a flood mitigation system that protects billions of dollars of surrounding real estate. One planning decision, multiple cascading benefits, decades of return. The West calls this kind of long-view infrastructure thinking too expensive to justify in the short term. KL calls it standard practice. Rail gets the glamour. But let's talk about the roads. Because KL's highway network reveals a strategic coherence that Western cities have almost entirely lost. Malaysia built out its highway network through a concession model that attracted private investment without entirely surrendering public interest. The North-South Expressway, stretching over 800 kilometers from the Thai border to Singapore, is one of the longest in Southeast Asia and a genuine economic backbone for the peninsula. But more relevant to daily KL life is the inner expressway ring, the Duke, the Suk, the MEX, a series of urban highway corridors designed with a key difference from American urban highway design. They were built to complement a transit backbone, not replace one. The principle sounds obvious when stated plainly. Highways move goods and long-distance travel. Transit moves people within the city. Build both, in proportion, and you get a functional metropolitan area. Build only highways, and you get Los Angeles, a city so thoroughly designed around the car that it cannot function without one, no matter how much money it subsequently spends trying to retrofit transit into a landscape that actively resists it. KL made this balance part of its planning framework before the damage was irreversible. And that timing is everything. Let's put some formal weight behind everything we've seen. The Economist Intelligence Unit publishes a Global Livability Index annually. In 2023, Kuala Lumpur ranked 65th overall. 65th sounds modest, and in some quality of life categories, KL genuinely has ground to cover. Healthcare access, environmental air quality, and certain social metrics remain areas where wealthier cities maintain an advantage. About something bigger than trains and tunnels. What Kuala Lumpur's infrastructure story really tells us is that the gap bet but look at the infrastructure subcategory specifically. KL's infrastructure score outperformed cities ranked 20 positions above it. Cities in Western Europe and North America, with per capita GDPs 4 or 5 times higher than Malaysia's. Cities with century-old infrastructure legacies and trillion-dollar tax bases. The Global Infrastructure Hub, a G20 initiative, has repeatedly highlighted KL as an emerging model for what it calls leapfrog infrastructure. The ability of newer urban systems to bypass the limitations of legacy infrastructure and build directly to 21st century standards. This matters enormously. London cannot easily retrofit air conditioning into Victorian tunnels because the tunnels are too narrow and the structural constraints too severe. New York cannot quickly upgrade its Depression-era signal system because the network never stops running long enough for comprehensive replacement. The legacy infrastructure that was once a sign of advancement has become, in many cases, the biggest obstacle to further improvement. KL had no Victorian tunnels, no Depression-era signals. It built new, built late, and built better, because it had the advantage of learning from everyone else's mistakes. And now, critically, other cities are learning from KL's. Urban planners from Nairobi, from Manila, from Bogota, from Accra, cities that are where KL was 20 years ago, are not flying to London to study transit models. They are not going to Los Angeles to understand urban mobility. They are coming to Kuala Lumpur, because KL represents a proof point. A demonstration that a city with limited resources, in a tropical climate, with a complex multicultural population and real political constraints, can build world-class infrastructure without a Western GDP. I want to step back from the stats for a moment, because this story is a Ween's so-called developed and developing infrastructure is not fundamentally about money. It is about choices made at the right moment, executed with sustained political will, and designed with the city's actual future, not just its present, in mind. Western cities are not poor. The United States federal government approved a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill in 2021. The UK has committed tens of billions to rail upgrades. The resources exist. But a 2020 Oxford University study analyzing 16,000 infrastructure projects globally found that Western democracies had among the highest rates of cost overrun and schedule delay, not because of complexity alone, but because of fragmented accountability, political interference in technical decisions, and procurement systems that incentivize the wrong things. KL is not a perfect counterexample. It has had its own procurement controversies, its own complications, its own projects that ran over time and budget. This is not a fairy tale. But the overall trajectory, the overall output, undeniable. And as the language of global progress continues to use developed and developing as its primary categories, cities like KL are quietly making those categories obsolete. Here is where we land. Kuala Lumpur is not done building. The Klang Valley MRT network will continue expanding through the late 2020s. The pedestrian last-mile gaps are being addressed. The 2040 Urban Mobility Plan, if executed, would produce one of the most complete, multimodal city transit systems in the world. The direction of travel is clear. And while KL keeps building forward, much of the Western world is having the same conversations it was having 10 years ago. How to fund it? Who to blame for the delays? How to explain to voters why the project that was promised in 2015 still hasn't broken ground? The 20th century belonged to Western infrastructure. The Eisenhower highway system, the London Underground expansion, the Paris Metro. These were genuine marvels of their era, built with ambition and executed with precision. But this is the 21st century, and the marvels of this century are being built somewhere else. They are being built in cities that were written off, in economies that weren't supposed to compete, by engineers and planners who looked at the Western model, identified where it failed, and chose to do something different. Kuala Lumpur is one of those cities. And the question, the one that will live in your head long after this video ends, is not really about KL at all. It's about your city. What was promised? What was built? What did it cost? And most importantly, who is accountable for the gap between those answers? That is what I want you to answer in the comments right now. Tell me your city. Tell me one infrastructure project your government promised, and what actually happened. Build the timeline. Give us the numbers if you have them. Because if cities like Kuala Lumpur, with a fraction of the fiscal resources of New York or London, can deliver world-class infrastructure on time and under budget, the only honest conclusion is that the Western failure is not a resource failure. It is a will failure, and that means it can be fixed. The question is whether your city, your government, will choose to fix it. Drop your city in the comments. Let's find out together.